All right, well now I'm going to show you how we actually can add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. So this time we're actually dealing with, and I'm going to write over here, unlike denominators. All right, so if you notice we have 2/3 plus 4 over 2, okay, and we have unlike denominators. So our denominator here is a 3, our denominator here is a 2, and they're not the same, so we can't add our numerators, right? Because that's the typical rule is that if we have the same bottom numbers, the same denominators, then we can add the numerators and then reduce, but we can't do that here. So normally what I do with the kids is I teach them the regular method of how to add fractions with unlike denominators. If in particular there's a student that maybe might not be understanding, I differentiate for them. So what I do is I'll teach them a different way, and there's many different ways. There's actually a story to fractions as well too. I would teach them that method, or I might teach them the finger method that I call. So this one is something that helped me when I was a kid. So the way it works is you take your two thumbs, and I drew it out here. This red part right here is actually your thumbs. So your thumbs are connected to each other because you're going to be multiplying those thumbs. And then this right here is this finger, and it goes like that. And then this finger here goes like this. So it's like an X with the two thumbs, like that. So it kind of looks like this, okay? So it kind of looks like that, right? And the kids kind of like doing this because, you know, it's kind of like, oh, I get to make little symbols, you know, and it's just pretty cool. So, and especially for those kids that really aren't understanding something, and then when you teach them a different way, maybe you're just focusing, you know, on helping them. In particular, they feel very special, like, oh wow, you know, I get to use this method, so they feel really good about it. So the bottom numbers, okay, are connected, which is my thumbs, right? And that means I'm going to multiply them. So 3 times 2 is 6. And that's how I get my common denominator. Now, it is not, this is the thing to keep in mind, and this is just between you and I, and you can let the student know after a few times of doing the problem with them and having them look at it first. Okay, that's the I do part, having them copy the notes part as well, and then a we do, you know, so do a couple problems together, very similar problems, and then do the you do part. Um, After all of that, you will want to explain to the students that this is not the least common denominator. It's the common denominator, but not the least common denominator. So at the end of the problem, the end of all of these steps, you do have to reduce. Okay, so you do gotta, that's the only problem with this method is that you're not actually identifying the lowest common denominator in the beginning with all problems. Okay, so this is with all problems. So in particular with this problem, it is, but there's other problems with different fractions where you don't get the least common denominator when you multiply the two bottom numbers. So just keep that in mind. All right, so we did that part, the thumbs. Okay, that's the 3 times the 2. Now I need to do this part. So I'm going to just draw here. Okay, we multiplied this, the 3 and the 2. Now I need to multiply the 2 times the 2, going like this. And that's this finger. All right, so that's this part. So if they're looking at their fingers, okay, they know, oh, okay, now I got to multiply this number to this number. So 2 times 2 is 4. And then now I got to multiply this one, 3 times 4, okay, because remember, the fingers look like this. So this index finger to that one. So 3 times 4 is 12. All right, and then now you do have the same denominators, so you can add the top numbers. So 4 plus 12 is 16 over 6, all right? And then you're going to have to teach the kids how to reduce. So obviously, if you look at the last digit, 6 and a 6, they're even numbers, so I know I can divide by 2. You know, so you know you can divide by 2, obviously. So this would be 3. And then how many times is it going in here? So it'd be like this, 8. And for some students that don't understand that, you can walk them through it. but for the sake of the video, it would be 16. Okay, and so then your answer would be 8 over 3. Now, you first want to teach the kids how to do all of the steps first. This is not your most simplified answer, of course, but it is an answer. Okay, so you want to first teach them how to do this. Teach them a few steps on how to do all of this. Make sure that they master all of the steps. And then in a separate lesson, you will want to show them how to turn this improper fraction into, actually this fraction into a mixed number. Okay, especially if they asked you in the very beginning to turn it into the most simplified form or into a mixed number, depending on what the problem or the question is. So first, you would teach the kids all of the steps, and then in a separate lesson, show them how to simplify. Multiplying and dividing fractions is actually quite easy. So I'm going to erase this, and it's going to make a mess here. So multiplying and dividing fractions uses a different finger method, and it's very simple. It's just your 2 fingers and your 2 thumbs connected. So it looks like this. So basically, the 2 fingers on the top multiply each other, and the 2 fingers on the bottom multiply each other. So if I have 2/3 times 5 over 2. All right, so my 2 top numerators are going to multiply because that's what my fingers tell me to do. So 2 times 5 is 10. And then my bottom numbers tell me that I have to multiply because the thumbs are connected to each other. So 3 times 2, that's 6. And obviously you can reduce because the last digits, you have a 0 and a 6. They're even numbers, so I know I can divide by 2. So this over here would be 5 over 3. So, and then again, you want to just show them the steps on how to do it first. Make sure that they can master that. And then later down the road, you can teach them how to simplify and turning it into a mixed number. All right, so that's multiplying fractions. Dividing fractions is actually quite similar. Dividing fractions is basically the finger method, but flipped. So it's where the thumb is upside down, like this. So again, it's kind of like this, and you go like this. But for you, it would be this way. All right, so it's where if I was dividing, okay, let's change this. All right, so I keep the same fraction here, which is the same thing as keep, change, flip method. All right, I change this to multiplication, and then I flip the second fraction, and that's why my fingers look like this, okay, where the thumb is upside down, 2 over 5. So now I can multiply going straight. So 2 times 4, 2 is 4, 3 times 5 is 15. All right, and that's multiplying and dividing fractions, and adding and subtracting unlike denominators.